The game. 4th and goal. And they're going to snap it, and it's Trey Burton who throws caught. Foles, touchdown.
In front of the letters, nods yes, the wind, the 1-2 pitch. Swinging a ground ball left side. Castro's got it. Spins, throws. He got him. A perfect game for Roy Halladay. 27 up and 20.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the latest episode of Trending for Four Quarters, only on DSM Media. I am your host, as always, Phil Stiefel. We're live on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Make sure you subscribe, like, share, retweet. You know the deal. Make sure you do it all. And make sure you jump in the comments section, because we've done the New York Giants. We've done the Dallas Cowboys. It took two of them to argue with me about their teams and the Eagles' outlook. It takes three Washington football team fans and podcasters to go 1-on-3 with the Beard of Knowledge right here. We're joined by Ref the District podcast at Ref the District on Twitter. They're on YouTube. They got a great podcast. We've got Trev, we've got Stoner, and we've got Nathan. Gentlemen, welcome to Trending.
Awesome. Thanks for having us, Phil. We appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having us on.
I think you're probably the nicest Philly fan I've ever met, so this is cool.
That's a very low bar,
nicest. To be fair. I'm just the most honest and upfront. Let me tell you something, guys. When I was setting up these shows, I knew exactly who I wanted for the Giants, and I knew kind of who I wanted for the Cowboys. Washington, I wasn't quite as sure, so I just put on Twitter. I just Google search in the top search bar. I typed in Washington podcast. The first thing that popped up was Ref the District. I mean, you guys must be big time if it's the first thing that pops up when I type that into the search engine.
We paid good money for that on Twitter, so I'm glad it worked out.
All right, so I mean, I don't know. One of you guys want to tell a little bit more? I know you guys goes live on Thursdays, 7:00 on your pages. Also, you guys have that great show. I love the name, Day of Reckoning, 7 p.m. the day after every Washington football team. One of you guys want to just give a quick shout out and description of what you guys are and who you guys are?
Yeah, so we're Ref the District. Something we started back up in January, just the Stoner and I. Trev was someone who we brought along because, one, he's amazing. I mean, look at that stud muffin with that shirt he's wearing.
You had to class the joint up a little bit.
Yeah, had to class it up a bit. So it's the three of us. We talk all DC sports, heavy emphasis, especially now that the NFL season's rolling around, that we talk about our Washington football team. You mentioned the Day After Reckoning. That's strictly talking the football game the day after. So, you mentioned all the big parts there. Thursdays live streaming on our YouTube channel. Check us out, Ref the District, as I'm bleeding on camera now. Okay, I'm going to have to bring it out, guys.
I was hoping it happened live on camera.
There it is. Look, Phil.
There we go.
Phil, look, you brought it out.
I got it out.
I love it. I love it. It keeps the stench of 2020 out of your nose.
So had a procedure yesterday, and this is the remnants of it. So we'll have to deal with it. I just didn't want to miss the show.
I'm going to take you off screen if you don't leave that up the entire show.
Right, that's fair. I couldn't leave these two yahoos to do all the talking. I needed to make sure that my voice was heard, because we have some people who would trade the entire team for a certain QB. Maybe that gets brought up later.
We might bring. Well, we're gonna actually. That's a great segue, guys. We won't start with you, Nathan. We won't start with you, Trevor, or Stoner. We'll start with Trevor. So we're talking NFC East. That's what the last couple weeks of this show has been. because I think it's really important as an Eagles fan and also for the other teams in the division to understand your opponents. The NFC East was obviously not a great division last year. 7 wins won it. It is what it is, but it's still one of the most competitive divisions in football. The Eagles, the Giants, the Cowboys, they always, Washington, they always fight tooth and nail to the end of every game. And I love the competitiveness of the division. But I think each team in our division, Washington included, starts with one thing that's the key to this year, and that's the quarterback situation. Obviously, last year, I'm sure you guys can agree with me, you're probably all glad that Dwayne Haskins is gone, right? Can we just all shake our head yes? If that's
not sad. Certainly not sad.
Peace out.
Stop with the stink. That's what this is for right there.
There you go. Pittsburgh, good luck, because the guy is not an NFL quarterback at all. You guys had Alex Smith, who's an inspiration to me because I had a similar injury in college to my leg. So I loved seeing him. I was actually rooting for them in the playoffs. You have Tyler Heineke, and you guys got what's the other guy's name? Kyle Allen. I always forget which Allen is in Washington. So
we really wish it was the other Allen. That would bode way better.
So talk about the quarterback position right now, Trevor. Where you guys are with Ryan Fitzpatrick. Does he have any magic left in him? Is he going to be a good enough game manager for you guys? Because I said last year, and I'm saying it again this year, if you guys have a decent quarterback, you guys are going to win the division. If you guys have a great quarterback, you might win the division for the next 3 to 5 years. That's how deep I think Washington football team is. So what are your thoughts on the quarterback situation right now for Washington, Trev?
I'm for real as a fan, I'm actually pretty excited. Fitzpatrick, also known as Fitzmagic, as everybody knows. That's exactly what he brings to the game. He takes chances down the field. Our offense hasn't had that in God knows how long. He's explosive at times. Yeah, he takes chances and might result in some interceptions here and there. But I think with the surrounding weapons he has on our offense this year, that he's probably he's even said himself he's in the best position to succeed in this system. So I'm pretty excited. I'm not saying he's a quarterback of the future. I don't want him more than this year. He's a bridge until we see what happens. But other than that, I'm pretty excited. He's going to push the ball downfield. So let's do it.
So Stoner, or do you share Trev's thoughts on Ryan Fitzpatrick and the success he could potentially have?
Look at his face. Look at his face.
I could that, dude. I'm great at reading people's faces. That's why I threw it right to him.
Phil, I do not agree with Trevor in this situation. I am not a Fitzmagic guy. But that all goes back to the offseason when I said their number one priority, and it would be irresponsible if they did not find their quarterback of the future based on they have their most talented, deep team that they've had in all of our collective memories that we can come up with. And if you don't get yourself a quarterback that's going to lead this team for the next 3 to 5 years, then that's an irresponsible move on the front office's part. They tried. They did go after Matt Stafford. That's documented. There were rumors that they were going after Deshaun Watson until the whole stuff came up with Deshaun Watson, right? So they did make an attempt. Now, with what they had left in the free agent market, Fitzpatrick was probably the best of the lot. So in that way, I'm glad that they did get the best of the rest. But he's not what this team needs at this moment. This team needs a quarterback that is going to be better than average, that's going to be better than a quarterback who's never been to the playoffs, who's never been consistent his entire career. And I think that's a mistake. So we'll see what happens as the season goes along, but I believe that they didn't do the team justice by finding their quarterback of the future.
All right, I'll throw it to you, Nathan. Are you on Trevor's side or are you on Stoner's side here?
I'm going to bridge the gap between the two of them. So, yeah.
You're the man of reason.
Man of reason. So I do think Fitzpatrick is an upgrade over what happened last year. And when you're talking about this defense, who should still be top 10 defense, if they just go from one of the bottom 5 offensive teams, I actually want to say they were like second to worst offensive teams from last year. Getting to this year, if they're just middle of the pack with Fitzpatrick, we're not even talking maybe like the 18th best offensive team. This team could make waves. This team could actually do something impressive, make the playoffs, be the NFC East back-to-back champs for the first time in like 2 decades, right?
A long time.
But they do need to have that QB of the future. And I really thought that going with Fitzpatrick was the right plan for now, but I really, really wanted to see the team get a QB in the draft. And so to let the draft go by and not take any one of the developmental QBs, that to me was a bit surprising because Rivera is going to be heading into his 3rd season next year. And if they go with the rookie quarterback next year, if they don't do well in the final 2 years of his contract, he's going to get the boot, and we're going to be right where we started, and we're going to waste the prime years of Chase Young, Montez Sweat, Deron Payne, Jonathan Allen. So
the list goes
much
on.
Just named every name on my list that I wanted to talk about tonight.
So yeah, I really hope that I don't think. And unless they're going all in again, trying to get one of these, there's a lot of QBs who are free agents next year or expected to be free agents. Unless they're going all in. What's that?
Yep.
Or available in trades, even.
Yeah, or available in trades, unless they're going to go for back into one of those. But I mean, what do? You get Aaron Rodgers and then you draft a QB in the first 3 rounds and he gets upset with you. I mean,
Yes.
You got to tell him first.
Yeah, you do have to tell him first.
I think you guys got it half right. I think getting Ryan Fitzpatrick was a good move, but you guys should have obviously also drafted your quarterback of the future. Because let's be honest for a second, you got Tyler Heineke, had a great game for a nobody against the Buccaneers, the Tampa Toms there. It was still it was a good moment for the kid, but he's not a quarterback of the future. He's not a franchise guy.
No.
I heard one. I was checking out your most recent shows and tweets and stuff before we went on, and one of you, I forget who, said actually Kyle Allen probably is quarterback too, right? You said it, Trevor.
Yeah.
Okay. That's not good if Tyler Heineke is already getting beaten out by Allen there because Kyle Allen's not a future quarterback of a franchise or anything like that. So you guys got that stopgap, but you guys didn't do anything for the future. And I don't know if you guys know this, but Ryan Fitzpatrick is an Eagles killer. It doesn't matter if he's on the worst team in football. When he goes against the Eagles, he's lights out. So you got at least 2 wins coming your way this year.
2 division wins.
Yeah, those 2 wins coming in.
2 division wins because Ryan Fitzpatrick will go for 400 yards in both games.
We don't have your coach sidelining Jalen Hurts in a pivotal moment. So I don't know. Maybe they weren't going to be.
I see where you're going there. He gave you guys a division by sidelining him there.
Appreciate that.
Giants fans would say that.
Yeah.
So guys, do you guys all agree that Heineke and Allen is not neither of them are the right choice, right? To even be a quarterback too, I talk about it all the time that the NFL in this league currently, you need a really good backup quarterback because how many quarterbacks really play a full 16 before this year, but 17 games.
I think best case scenario for Heineke really is he's going to be like Colt McCoy, Chase Daniel, one of these guys who might, best case scenario, he's going to stick around for a long time and hold the clipboard and make a lot of money. Yeah. But he's, despite the fact that there's a lot of Heineke howlers.
Is that what it's called? I never even heard that term.
Heineke Hive, Heineke Train, Heineke Howlers. It's
all sorts of names. None of the 3 of us are on that hype train, the Heineke hype train. So
at the last preseason game, of course, you got Fitzy out there running with the ones, and the fans are like, "Okay, it's Fitzpatrick." Soon as Heineke stepped his left foot on the playing field, you would have thought we scored a touchdown. The place erupted.
People lost their day on mine.
Are you kidding me?
Mm-hmm.
So,
all right. So let's go from the quarterbacks to the offense weapons. And Jason's checking in with a great question. He wants to know about Antonio Gibson. It's his favorite young running back in the league. Reports that he's going to be kind of like a Christian McCaffrey. But before we address that part of the question, I kind of feel like Washington has one of the most underrated 1, 2, 3 punches in the league. Antonio Gibson, Terry McLaurin, and my most underrated tight end in the league, Logan Thomas.
Yeah.
I think he's a great player. I think he's got so much potential So, I mean, I don't know who wants to go first here. Trev, you're clapping. You can go first.
Don't ask my wife about Logan Thomas.
Okay.
Yeah, bro. So
Is she leaving you for Logan Thomas?
Oh no, she hates
Right.
Logan Thomas.
Gotcha.
I called him
All right,
decidedly mediocre. So
Talk about the potential that this young offensive core has and how, in my opinion, they're overlooked in the league.
Go ahead, Stoner. You go first.
I'm jumping in.
Yeah, go ahead. You jump in.
Yeah, they're absolutely underrated, but simply because of one reason. They haven't had a consistent quarterback who's been good enough to let them shine. I mean, Terry McLaurin, what he's done in his first couple of years with absolute trash at quarterback, with the likes of Haskins and Alex Smith and Kyle Allen and the list goes on of the guys.
Colt McCoy, Heineke.
Yeah, all those guys that he's had thrown to him. He's like top 5 in most catches in the first few years in the league in league history. He's been absolutely amazing. Gibson was a little banged up at the end of last year, but he's still, what did he have? 13 touchdowns for a rookie?
Yeah.
That's
and
insane.
over 1,000 yards too.
I think he missed. Didn't he miss a few games last year as well?
He missed a couple.
I know I had him on one of my fantasy teams, so I know he missed a little bit of time.
He missed a few games because he was banged up, a little turf toe, but he looks fresh this year. He looks completely healthy. He looks quick. He looks like he's going to be out there for all 3 downs. He's not going to be coming out on 3rd downs for a specialist like he did last year. He's absolutely going to be used a lot like McCaffrey in Carolina. But again, and then Logan Thomas, who before this year had, I think his career high in catches was like 16 or before last year.
It was pretty low. He exploded this last season.
And he had 72 catches. So if you get the right quarterback, and Fitzpatrick is not a top quarterback, but he's good enough that all he has to do is get it in these guys' hands, and this offense could be a little bit magical. Fitzmagical, you might say.
Look at that. Nathan, do you agree with what he said there, or anything else? I
do think that it's going to explode. Now, I'm not as big into Logan Thomas as these guys are. In fact, we have a little side bet going on where a certain somebody in our cast thinks that Logan Thomas is going to have 90 receptions on the season.
That's tough to do for a tight end, but I would not. I just to interrupt. I would not put it past him that he's in fantasy terms, because I like to grade things on fantasy terms as well. That he might by the end of the year be a top 5 tight end in the NFL. I don't know about 90.
I think that's reasonable
per se, but he's clearly, in my opinion, going to be in my fantasy draft, the DSM draft. I will try to get him in the first 5 tight ends taken. Personally.
And how many did he have last year? He had 72. Third best in the league.
There you go.
Last year.
Okay, third best in the league. Only 2 were above 90, and there, we saw Samuel was brought up, right? Underrated. Terry McLaurin. Fitzpatrick is going to be slinging the ball, but he has more targets, and the offense is actually opening up. Scott Turner is able to open this offense up. A lot of the passes from the last season were dump offs because you have people like Heineke, Allen, and Smith who don't have strong arms and no receivers, right? It's Scary Terry, the captain, whatever he likes to be called, Terry McLaurin, F1. The guy is an absolute stud. If you look at his stats and you compare them to some other people's, he legit has better stats, and he's had worse players throwing to him. So I know everyone loves DK Metcalf, but if you look at the stats, like, are you kidding me? These are the stats DK Metcalf has, and he has a legit quarterback throwing to him, and a legit offense. And here Terry McLaurin's getting all this and doesn't get the love. The guy was left off the top 100, and Cole Beasley made it. Cole Beasley, Corey Davis. These are the guys that people think are better than Terry McLaurin. He is going to be an absolute stud. If you're doing fantasy, Terry McLaurin is a guy that you're going to look. I think Gibson might be. I'm with Trev on this. He brought this up on a separate podcast. Gibson, I think, might be overdrafted. I think that Gibson's going to have a good season. I don't know that I like the.
Is it because of this comment from my man Jason that J.D. McKissic might have a role?
JD is going to fall off the map.
Okay.
Yeah, it's because we have more weapons now. Last year, we didn't have any receiving, so Antonio Gibson and JD got more touches. I think JD had 80 receptions as a running back last. That's unheard of. But I think Antonio will still have a big year. but less touches. And I can definitely see him in that CMC role. I mean, of course, our head coach and our offensive coordinator, who else are they going to compare him to? I mean, you know what I'm saying? So, like, of course,
actually
and I
think,
can see that.
you could start this show. I think bringing in Curtis Samuel, who was an underrated weapon in Carolina, actually helps Terry McLaurin and Logan Thomas. Because, I mean, he's a guy that can stretch the field, run those bubble screens and whatnot. And, I mean, he didn't get the respect in Carolina, obviously, you know, that he deserved, in my opinion. So I think that actually helps your offense out a lot.
There's also,
I agree with you.
Yeah, Samuel's is an option, but De'Ami Brown is another an option, rookie third round pick for Washington that I think is going to have a very explosive year. And this is why I don't think Logan Thomas is going to get 90 catches. I actually gave him, I spotted him 5 receptions, by the way. I said, we'll change the bet for you. You've been drinking. I'll put 85. I'll put it at 85. He's not getting 85 touches. And I think the offense is just going to be able to spread around, and you're going to see a lot of Gibson. You're going to see maybe a lot of Jarrett Patterson, undrafted free agent rookie out of Buffalo, who's making some noise this preseason. A lot of people know about him for the 8 touchdowns in one game that he had in college. So, you know, it'll be interesting. I don't see necessarily, like I said, I don't see that CMC out of Gibson, but I do think that he'll be pretty exciting to watch.
So you guys bring up the preseason. I'll be honest. I haven't even looked. I don't know how you guys did in the first 2 games of the preseason. I'm not even sure because I don't put much stock in the preseason. I actually, before we get to the defense, I want to bring up an interesting topic here. Brought up on my Twitter page. It was a poll question. Had about 200 votes. And it's 50-50 right now, which very rarely when you put a poll out, do you get like a 51-49 or 50-50. You get, normally they're really skewed one way or the other. You guys didn't do any joint practices this year.
No.
I'm not sure why or if there was a reason or not. So my poll question was this week, do you put more stock in a preseason game where the ones play 3 drives or these joint practices where the ones get a lot of runtime, typically against the other team's 2s, as the ones on the other team are going up against the 2s on the the Washington's team. So do you put any stock more so in preseason versus practice in the training camp, one or the other, or do you guys just don't take into account any of that stuff?
I think you always go back to when I think about preseason, practicing, training camp, OTAs, going against another team in camp, all that stuff. All I do is look back to 2020 when nobody had any of that stuff.
Absolutely.
And everybody it looked exactly the same as it would any other time, including starting game 1. So I don't know that any of that stuff really means anything other than guys just kind of getting in a little bit of a flow. I don't think one has advantage over another. I'm not sure what Trev thinks about that.
I mean, I kind of hone in on preseason just a little bit. I don't put that much stock in it, but a little bit just to see like our late round draft picks to see if they're NFL ready, if they can contribute right away, or we're going to have to develop them. Because we're known like the past few drafts that we find these gems in later rounds.
The district diamond.
That was called the district diamond.
That's what we call it. Yeah, our district diamond.
So we see them. We have to kind of like you said, 2020, we had no idea what was going to happen with Cam Curl until game 1, game 2, game 3, and we're like, oh, he's a stud. So like now, since we have a preseason, we kind of have an idea. Like, I'm gonna go ahead and say this for an example. Derek Forrest, he was a 5th round pick, projected to contribute in the safety room, which I don't see how that's going to happen but special teams as well. But he's kind of been a dud during preseason and shown that he wasn't really worth that 5th round, maybe a 7th round or after the draft sign him. But so that's why I kind of hone in preseason. But that's about it.
Nathan, you agree with that, or you have a different opinion? Or
no, I think
because let me tell you, the Eagles have looked god awful in preseason. But according to and I got bashed by a couple other networks because I called the Eagles winning joint practices, and because the ones played a lot more time. I mean, Jalen Hurts had 25 passes in the joint practice the other day against the Jets. Threw multiple touchdowns. It was against the Jets, whatever. But in a preseason game, he might get 2 passes. Or not. Last week he didn't even play at all. So I kind of take more stock in those joint practices just because you do get into that flow, as Stoner said there. A little bit more of an option there.
I think those reps are important. I think that the joint practices because they're not televised, you might actually see a lot more actual, because especially you're not joint. You mentioned the Jets, right? For the Eagles, a few years ago, Washington did it with Houston, and that's made famous thanks to Hall, literally breaking his ankle.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of joint practices for that reason.
You have a reason not to like them. There you go. Yeah.
But I think because of that, it's not a foe that you're going to see during the regular season, and they're not televised. I think you do see a little bit more from that, and I think it's important for guys like Jalen Hurts to get reps in a way that they're not going to get during the preseason. I think where the preseason really is, it really is just glorified practice for those 5th and 6th and 7th round guys to see, get them those game reps, get them up to speed, because the game is so much different from college. And then that's where we fall in love with these backup players, right? This is where the Jarrett Pattersons, the Masons, the Brennans, Colt Brennan was one that, yes, rest in peace. So this is where those guys shine, and people fall in love with them and think that they're going to be the next best thing. So we mentioned Heineke getting a big cheer from the crowd. He's done really, even though to us he hasn't impressed, to his fans, he's doing everything they want to see happen in a real game. And it's because of preseason. I think that honestly, they should just drop another preseason game, do 2 preseason games, maybe get a joint practice in there, and then go into the regular season, especially as they lengthen.
I'm with Stoner. 0 preseason games.
0 preseason. Don't need
joint
it.
practices
It's
are
overrated.
enough for me. Yeah, the preseason games are overrated in my opinion. But I do want to. I want to, before we move on, because I want to talk defense. I do want to talk about Ron Rivera for a minute before we get into the Eagles. But I brought it up, and you guys kind of hinted at it on other shows. I've brought it up, is that everybody from 2020, they're still a rookie in my mind. There were no camps, no preseason games, no joint practices. I consider all of 2020, because just like you said, Trev, we had Kayvon Wallace last year out of Clemson, drafted in the 4th round. Everybody was anointing him the next Brian Dawkins, which nobody can be the next Brian Dawkins. That was just over talk. But he had no camp. He had no real time to develop. So we don't know what he has. So we need this year to. I consider them all rookies still, and they're still developing their game, because at least they're having some opportunity this year to develop their game.
Right, I agree with you totally.
All right,
especially for Trevor's man, Jamin Davis. That it's a rookie this year. He's a little disappointed with our top 20 draft pick there. He doesn't think that.
Hear me out real fast before we get to that. Hear me out. If you draft the guy
from last year, but okay.
If you draft the guy top 20 based off of his 1 year in college, 10 starts, and you bring him to NFL and you give him this bigger role than he could probably afford to take on right now, and he goes out and he looks like a deer in headlights. You don't want to see that from a top 20 pick. If you're going to develop somebody, why would you waste a top 20 pick on a development player?
Well, I could kind of compare that to Andre Dillard, our 1st round pick from a couple of years ago. I think he was 21st. I think it was when we selected Andre Dillard. And the guy's losing out the left tackle position to a guy named Jordan Mailata. I'm sure you guys have heard his name.
Yep.
He did not even see a football in person, the football itself, the pigskin, until he came over to sign his contract in Philadelphia. He had never watched a game, never been to a football game, never played a day of football. And in 3 years, he has now taken over the left tackle starting position from Andre Dillard, who's been playing since probably was 6, 7, 8 years old. Yeah. So, I understand what you're saying there. Yeah, that's not what you want to see from somebody taking it anywhere in the 1st round, even the beginning of the 2nd round, in my opinion.
Especially to a position that's needed tremendously bad on defense. You're picking a project. So we'll see how it works.
That's a great transition to defense. I still think defensively, that's where you guys' bones are made. I think you guys have probably one of the best, if not the top 3 front 4 in football. I mean, you even got some really solid linebackers, your cornerbacks. What are we going to see from the defense this year? Are we going to see even more from Chase Young, Montez Sweat, Boss? Yeah, I mean, the names go on and on that are on your defensive front 7. What can Eagles fans expect to see from Washington this year on defense?
They can probably get used to seeing Chase Young on top of your quarterback.
Yeah, I think all teams are going to expect that.
Yeah.
Picks. We're going to get a lot of picks this year.
The great thing about this defense, as good as they were last year, depending on what metric you're using to to decide where they were. They were anywhere from the second best to the fifth best defense in the entire NFL. Now, sure, they didn't play a lot of great teams and a lot of great offenses last year, but still, they dominated when they needed to dominate. And the great thing about it is that the only player that you lose from that team is really a backup defensive end and future
I think we kind of took
Washington.
it from you.
Yeah, future Washington Ring of Honor.
You can have him.
Kerrigan.
Okay.
Right. That's
All right.
really the
I was
only
gonna
guy
bring that up when we talk the Eagles, but we can talk about that right now. Are you bitter that we stole Ryan?
Nah,
You're never happy. You're never happy to see a guy who leads the team in sacks go to a division rival. I think he's going to hit. He's at 95. I think he'll hit 100 with the Eagles. That's disappointing, but honestly, I'm not scared of him.
Okay.
He's getting old. He's more of a hustle guy. He's never been someone who's flashy. He's been consistent. But realistically, he's not somebody I'm scared. And honestly, Phil, I want to know, in all of the years that he played for Washington, were you ever scared to go up against Ryan Kerrigan the same way that don't want to face
like
Chase Young or Montez Sweat?
No, I never felt the fear of the Chase Young, but I always felt like he was kind of like that Ryan Fitzpatrick guy, like we talked about earlier, that always had his best games against the Eagles. He might not have had a lot of sacks against the Eagles, but he always was in the backfield against the Eagles. And then he disappeared the rest of the year. He's just a guy that I'm happy he's on my team because he's not going to be, causing problems. And you got to watch out for those veteran guys. They have moves. They have the knowledge and the know-how. We got a young offensive line. He's a guy I'm happy we don't have to stop anymore. But I think he's going to thrive in Philly because when Philly won the Super Bowl in 2017, their defensive line was at the best. When their best players, the Fletcher Coxes of the world, Brandon Grahams, they were playing. We had a rotation on the line. They were playing 55, 60% of the snaps. Fletcher Cox back in 2017, you guys probably thought was one of the top 2 or 3 defensive tackles in the league. Last couple of years, he's fallen off, not because he has gotten any worse. It's but because he's playing 80% of the snaps. And that can't happen. In 2017, we brought in a veteran in Chris Long. He only played 33% of the snaps, I believe it was that year. But his role in alleviating some of the pressure off the other guys on the line, and that's where I see Ryan Kerrigan fitting in with the Eagles. He's going to be that veteran, A, but B, that guy that he's only going to play 30, 40% of the snaps.
That's interesting because he didn't want to have that role here. That's one of the reasons why he didn't
I don't know if that's
with
going to be his
Washington.
role here,
Yeah,
but I mean,
that's where
what
you
we're
expect
perceiving the role is going to be.
Yeah.
And to piggyback off our
go ahead, Trev. No, go ahead.
To piggyback off our defense, how good it's going to be. We were top 5 defense during COVID. No OTAs, no mini camps. Jack Del Rio is a new defensive coordinator, defensive scheme, and we were top 5 defense. So I think we can only get better. Second year in this defense, we added William Jackson. Kendall Fuller's back playing the slot. We got some nice rookies. Landon Collins is back.
That's a huge addition. We got Ioannidis. Matt Ioannidis is back from injury as well.
So I think it's only going to go up.
Trev, you brought up a great point there that I don't think it's talked about enough is with Jack Del Rio, they switched back to the 4-3 after years of doing a 3-4. And so this is where, we didn't have the Washington football team didn't really have the personnel to make that switch outside of the defensive line. Really those first 4, that's where they were set. But linebacker, they were missing some pieces. You can argue that they're still missing those pieces this year. And the defensive backfield was not really that studly. We got Fuller back, who we had traded away to Kansas City. He wins a ring. He comes back to Washington.
To bring us
happy to have him, hopefully to bring us a ring. But they played him outside, and he had an amazing season for the most part. He did get himself in trouble a few times where he was beat. But now he's kind of moving inside as they have a longer cornerback that they got in the draft, St. Just, who nobody heard about. But now after all these preseason games that we don't like, he's showing that he can, in fact, play that outside position for Washington. And so I do think that this defense, statistically, I think that they might have a drop-off. but
They will.
that's only because of the competition they're playing. Stoner brought this up. The competition last year, against the bad teams, they feasted. Against the good teams, they were beat pretty steadily. I mean, even in the Tampa Bay game against Tom Brady, Tom really had his way with the defense. Chase Young, even though he wanted Tom, didn't get there. And so I think you're going to see a slight statistical drop, but I still think they're going to be one of the top 10 defenses.
That's great points
I
there.
agree exactly on that. Yeah.
So, I want to get into the coaches for a second, but I did notice I was checking out the depth chart as currently listed online, and I noticed the name. I didn't even know he was with Washington. He was the guy the Eagles drafted last year in the 7th round that you guys got on your defensive line, and I thought he was going to be this great late draft pick, and he didn't make the final cuts. Again, rookies, no OTAs and stuff. I mean, I don't want to spend more than a minute or two on Casey Toohill, but what have you guys seen from him? Because he was a guy that I saw as a 7th round pick that in a normal rookie offseason probably would have made the team last year for the Eagles, but because of the situation, didn't get that opportunity. And I didn't even know he was on your team, guys. And I was just really excited to ask you about Casey Toohill because I'm like, I was hyping him up all off season last year, and then proven wrong.
I'm not gonna lie, when we brought him in late last season, he contributed. He might not have gotten any sacks or anything, but he definitely brought some pressure to the pocket back there. He's just been hindered with some injuries so far this season, so we really haven't even got a chance to look at him. But I was surprised when we brought him in how well he performed. So he's nice depth, not too bad.
There was a lot of talk about him at the end of last year when they signed him off the practice squad from Philly. That he was really impressive.
A nose to the ground rusher when he came out of college. He's not a guy that's going to stop the run or do multiple things. He's just a typical pass rusher, and that's it. 3rd down and long, you put him in there and let him go after the quarterback. And again, someone I thought really had potential in the NFL.
He's making this team, depending like Trevor said, he has been hampered with some injuries. He hasn't been practicing a lot. He's been, on the dreaded they call it the Ashburn cycling team, which is Ashburn is where the training camp is, Ashburn, Virginia. And then the cycling team is all the guys who are injured and not practicing are on those stationary bikes. That's how they kind of keep warm during practice. So they call it the Ashburn cycling. He's been a part of that the last few days, I think. But barring injury, maybe putting him on the injured list or whatever, he's making this team. He's a valuable backup.
I like to hear that because it makes me feel a little smarter evaluating talent, knowing that this guy's got a chance and he just totally had no shot last year. It makes me feel a little bit, and that's why I always say you can't count draft picks or even the draft class till 2-3 years down the line because you just really don't know these guys. All right.
Unless your name's Chase Young.
Well,
you already know, right?
If you're a top 3 pick, you better be better right away.
Dwayne Haskins was a pretty obvious one about a year after.
Dwayne Haskins, why do we have to keep talking about him?
We don't.
Nathan likes him.
Nathan likes him. Why I can't buy into Justin Fields because Dwayne Haskins was another Ohio State quarterback that just could not act in the NFL.
If you want to go that route, I don't know how many Alabama quarterbacks have really been that good in the league either. So I
don't know. Mac Jones in his joint practice today went like 25-26 with Cam Newton not there. Joint practice.
How many checkdowns?
I'm a big fan of joint practices. All right. Last thing on Washington before we talk about the Eagles. Riverboat Ron Rivera. Last year, all three teams outside the Eagles changed coaches. You had Mike McCarthy, you had Joe Judge, and you had Riverboat Ron. And I said right away that Washington got the best of the 3 coaches there. And I have never actually talked to any Washington football people to know what's Washington really truly feel last year and actually this year going into this year about him being your head coach. So any of you guys can go. I'd love to get your opinions on Riverboat Ron, who I think is a severely underrated coach in the NFL.
Oh, he's the man. He's the man.
Let's sum it up really quickly there.
Seriously, this because of our culture from the past few years has been shady as hell, and he came in right away. I remember last year he said, "What are those?" And somebody said ping pong tables. He was like, "Nah,
we're gonna bring up the damn
ping pong tables." Yeah, bro, because
It was a legit off-season story. He got rid of the ping pong tables. He's changing the culture. He changed the culture, but it had nothing to do with the ping pong tables.
No, but that was a start. But and just the way he's handled that whole scandal with the front office, and then this whole name branding and renaming thing, he's handled it to a T. And you can see, on the field too, it's translating there because his players are buying into him. His players are on time. They're punctual. He doesn't take any, BS, and they recognize that, and that's what this team needed. Because I believe Landon Collins even was had a comments today after practice about the roster change from when he got here to now, and people were complaining about how hot it was at practice and how hard it was. Rivera's here; you don't hear any of that.
Supposed to be easy at practice?
Huh? No, it's not supposed to be
under Gruden. It was.
I mean, we're talking about practice here, though. Practice? I mean, we're talking about practice.
I mean, it was the 19th anniversary of that statement the other day.
What, Phil?
So, I mean, go ahead.
You know what, Phil? You know what he's done in just a year and a half or however long it's been? He's brought respectability back to this franchise.
Respectability,
and discipline.
And that's a huge change from what we've had for so long. When they brought him in and they said, what we're going to do is we're going to have a coach-centric organization. So he's not just involved on the field. He's involved with all the off the field stuff. He's involved with being the face of the franchise, the face of the entire organization. And people respect him, and therefore they respect this organization. And that's never, or as long as I can remember, that's never been the case when you've had people who have brought the exact opposite, the Bruce Allens, the Jay Grudens, the Shanahans, this Dan Snyder,
Zorn.
we're going to talk
Jim
about
Zorn.
all of that stuff. And we've been the laughing stock, and we're not the laughing stock anymore.
Nah.
And the fans have taken notice, and people are starting to get back on this. But it all comes down to what happens on the field. As long as he does what he's doing off the field and it translates to on the field, then you've got an all-timer, and we'll all be worshiping at the feet of Ron Rivera because everybody likes Ron Rivera. Everybody respects what he's doing.
Okay.
Yeah, we're still very much in the honeymoon phase there because it's in Ron we trust for most Washington fans and didn't think that he can do any wrong. And so, this is, I think that the Dwayne Haskins thing, not to bring him up again, but that was one area where
the fourth time we brought him up on this show?
I know.
Every time
this is where Ron, I think, did make a mistake last year.
4 times about a guy that's not even on the team.
So Ron Rivera, that's to me, that's like his one misstep that he's made so far was the Dwayne Haskins situation. He said it's going to be a competition last year, and it wasn't. He had to play Dwayne Haskins to prove that Dwayne Haskins couldn't play the quarterback position for the Washington football team. And he even he pretty much says as much by the end of the season, where Ron, talked after having to bench him a second time, talked about how he's not ready and, there wasn't really there. And so that's probably his so far to me, his only misstep. But you're absolutely right. Washington won the coach lottery for the NFC East there. Absolutely. McCarthy, I'm glad that Dallas had to go from the clapper to McCarthy. And I just hope that he stays for a decade there because I know that they're going to be mired in mediocrity.
He's not. Dan Quinn's taking his spot next year. Anyway, to piggyback on that, and also just look at last year. The man had cancer during a pandemic and was still coaching a professional football team.
Absolutely.
He wins a division with 7 wins and 4 quarterbacks. He helps produce one of the top defenses.
7 wins. It was only 7 wins, just so you know.
Yes, 7 wins.
It wasn't like 10 wins.
It doesn't matter. It's all it took.
Okay, all right. Gotcha.
And then, that's the important part.
He helped produce a top 5 defense. And then this year, this whole vaccination thing, we were one of the teams with the lowest vaccination rate for players after we were one of the top COVID-19 protocol teams last year. But he could have easily just said, it's a personal choice, whatever. Nah, he's bringing in doctors, other people to help his players because we have a young team to get them more acquainted with what's going on with this pandemic.
And some of those young players had been outspoken about not taking the vaccine.
Yes, and now we're like at 90%. Just because he just cares. And it's just, you got to love him. 2-time coach of the year. You just got to love him.
Love him. All right. Let's transition because this is an Eagles. We spent 45 minutes talking Washington. This is an Eagles centric show. Okay, Super Bowl champions.
Yeah.
We have it on free
How
content.
many? How many do you
It
have?
doesn't matter. Most recent Super Bowl champions out of the NFC East. All right.
He's
So
right.
we're going to throw to Nathan first because before the show I learned that he's a Sooners fan here. Okay.
I am.
So I've been the last couple of weeks trying to get honest opinions from the division rivals on what they think. Don't be homerism or anything like that. Just honest opinions. We have a new coach in Nick Sirianni. We got a young quarterback in Jalen Hurts who we discussed probably wasn't a second-round talent, but a good guy. You know, whether he becomes a great quarterback, that's a different story. You know, we got Devontae Smith, my opinion, the best wide receiver out of this draft class, over Fields Chase Young. Or I'm throwing all different names out here. I'm lost on this one here.
Jamar Chase.
Jamar Chase doesn't look
you know
good,
where
so
I'm
that's
going
the
here.
thing.
I'm awful with names, just so you know. I know we're 45 minutes in. I think somebody else is Trevor and someone else is Nathan now. You know, I'm terrible with names. So I need an honest opinion on your thoughts, and I'll let Nathan go first because he's a Sooner fan, so he's got a firsthand account of Jalen Hurts, where the Eagles are, in your opinion. And I don't want to say the word fear. Do you worry about the Eagles or anything like that? But, you know, do you think the Eagles are building anything that you have to worry about in the future here right now?
Not at this moment. So I think this is, so we talked about Jalen Hurts and how he wasn't second round talent. I think that he did need to develop, and I think fourth or later would have put the right expectations on him. And I really think that he's going to get a raw deal. I think that he's being forced to start before he's ready. And that was even true of last year. Last year, he was able to use some of his mobility, and that is where he can be scary, especially for Washington fans, as tend to have issues with mobile quarterbacks. And so again, thanks for gifting that victory by pulling them out in week 17. But I don't really, I think that Philadelphia honestly is probably going to be another 2 or 3 years before they get back into the mix of things. I'm not saying they're going to be bottom of the NFC East, but I don't think they're capable of winning. And it's not really, to me, Hurts' fault. I think that the fact that he needed to develop, and he's being thrusted into the starting role. He has this coach change happen. He was yanked in the middle of a week 17 game against a division rival where the outcome actually was important. Maybe not so important for the Eagles, but still, you don't want to, I would imagine most Philly fans hate the Giants more than they hate Washington. So, you don't want to see, them, put themselves in a position to gift a team. So
let me ask you then, Nathan, since you followed Jalen Hurts with Oklahoma, do you think Jalen Hurts can be and I don't want to say a franchise like superstar. I don't want to put that term out there, but can he be a starting quarterback in the NFL, at least in that mediocre mid-level range?
Yeah, I think he'll stick around the league for a while. I don't think it's going to be in Philadelphia. I think Philadelphia will move on after this season, if not during the season, from Jalen Hurts. But I do think that, they might bench him, right? I'm not saying that they're going to
trade him or
pull a
nothing.
Dwayne Haskins and cut him from the roster.
Stop saying Dwayne Haskins. With other
Dude, hold on.
you can do Fitzpatrick.
Patrick got
Is it
Jalen Hurts
So-
and Dwayne Haskins in the same sentence.
No, I apologize to Jalen Hurts. I apologize.
You're not
to Jalen
allowed
Hurts.
back next time,
big
Nathan. You're not
difference.
allowed back.
Do I have to mute his microphone?
Yeah, you might have to.
So Jalen Hurts, I think, like I said, I think Philadelphia is going to move on from him, but I think that we're still going to hear Jalen Hurts' name on a roster during these meaningless preseason games, unless they get rid of him, for at least another 5 to 7 years. I don't know. I think that he still will have the potential that teams will want to. I mean, come on, you have Josh Rosen, for goodness sakes, that's still getting kicked around and on teams. And I think so. So, he got picked up by the Falcons after getting dropped by one of the most QB-friendly systems in San Francisco. So, I think that Jalen Hurts is going to do fine for himself. I don't know that he will ever be a top 15 starting quarterback, though. He'll be somebody who just mills around the league for a bit and can do some spot starts. Tyrod Taylor might be a good comparison there.
I think he's a little bit better than Tyrod Taylor.
I agree, but
just because I think the leadership aspect,
yeah,
and
that's
the
where
chip on his shoulder, might lend him. Stoner, where do you think the Eagles are as a team? Nick Sirianni, Jalen Hurts, Devontae Smith.
You said the word, Nick Sirianni. That guy from the outside looking in, that's a clown.
I'm a Nick Sirianni. Is the correct term stan? Is that like
yeah.
I'm a Nick Sirianni stan, just so you know.
Okay.
So dance carefully there.
Yeah. So okay. Nick Sirianni to the outside world is a clown. Right?
Okay.
When you saw him,
can I ask you?
Well, simply in his first press conference.
See, I'm going to cut you off.
I know.
Right now.
I understand.
Mike. You threatened to mute me. You're not going to mute him.
Conference.
Phil, listen. That's all we get. That's all we know from the outside.
True. That is true. That's
all we can see.
Good point.
We just see this guy and we're like, whoa. When you talk about the Lions and their coach, Dan Campbell, that's what you think. This guy's a little off the
Luckily, my fantasy football show partner is from Detroit, and he told me to calm down on the Dan Campbell talk.
Right. Joe Judge, right? Joe Judge is another one of those that.
Luckily, that comparison, I'm okay to calm down on.
Yeah. So just looking from the outside, I don't think you'll find anybody who's predicting who's going to win the division. You'll hear a lot of people say Washington. You'll hear a lot of people say Dak is back in Dallas, so maybe it's going to be Dallas. Well, Daniel Jones is going to finally break out, and they've got some great weapons on offense there, so it's going to be the Giants. Nobody says the Eagles are going to be the team that are going to win the division, and that's usually because of what? The quarterback, right? Mm-hmm. So he's probably at if you ask anybody, you don't have a lot of world beaters and quarterbacks in this division, but he's always going to consistently rank fourth in the division, and that's usually reflected in the end when you have your record. So
I need to know who Phil ranks higher. I need to know if he's doing this, he ranks someone higher.
Well, I think Daniel Jones is the worst quarterback in the division.
Yeah,
I don't buy Daniel Jones.
He's also 4-0 against Washington, so we can't say
that. That's as a football fan. I know he had 2 big rushes against the Eagles last year that he tripped over his own shoelaces on. But outside of that, Daniel Jones is the worst quarterback in our division, hands down, in my opinion.
But look at his weapons that he has in New York. He's got some serious weapons if everybody's healthy with the Saquon and the.
But he's had those weapons. Whatever. But he's had those weapons.
Well, he didn't have Saquon much last year. They drafted Kadarius Toney.
He had Saquon.
He did.
All right. I mean, who knows what's
again?
Really
he's 4-0 against Washington, so he's obviously knows something.
I didn't even know that.
Enough about the Giants. Who cares about the Giants?
Trevor, take it back. Philly. What's on Philly? This is a Philly show. We're talking about the Giants.
Phil, I got you on this. So, as a football fan, NFC East fan, I think they are in the right direction, building towards the future, because that's what you originally asked. They got Jalen Hurts. Mm-hmm. We'll see. Like, we don't really know what he has. Like, he played sparingly last year. We can't really base off college because he's already been in the league for a year now. So now that college stuff should be out the window. Mm-hmm. He's in the NFL now, so we should talk about that. So maybe this year, as a full-on starting quarterback, maybe he latches on. But you mentioned earlier you have a young offensive line. Any bad offensive line can make a good quarterback look terrible. So absolutely. Jalen Hurts can be very talented, but if he's getting knocked around, sacked, hit every time he's going to look bad. Devontae Smith was a very good pickup. He needs a weapon. He needs somebody he can trust in the receiving field. Your tight end position is in the air. Zach Ertz wants to be traded. They're not going to trade him. They might trade him. They might not trade him. I don't know what's going to happen.
I think you pretty much summed up like 10 episodes of Zach Ertz talk there in 3 seconds.
I mean, Jalen Reagor is fast. I think, like last year was his rookie year. He didn't have any offseason. So I think
he was injured
the team is very young, and you have new pieces again. So I think you're in the right step of building towards a future. You just got to maybe draft some offensive linemen. Miles Sanders is a nice complementary to running back. You just need that number 2 receiver. That could be Jalen Reagor this year, maybe not. But you're in the right direction. But yeah, it's going to take 2 or 3 years.
Thanks for that positive outlook there.
Yeah, bro. I wasn't trying to
you weren't being the typical Cowboys fan like last week, or typical Washington fans like Nathan and Stoner here.
Your question was about the future.
I have the same end game as Trevor. I said 2 to 3 years. Trevor just said 2 to 3 years.
You said Jalen Hurts was going to be there next year. So
look, I will say, guys, just so you know, as an Eagles fan, but as a realist, you guys talked about Nick Sirianni. You talk about Jalen Hurts. You guys don't see the third press conference, the fifth press conference,
Right.
the 10th. Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni have proven to me in the offseason one thing, or two things actually: leadership and hard work. Now, whether what they're proving, I'm sorry to keep you awake there, Trevor.
You're good. I'm sorry.
I'm writing that down.
I'm so
54 minutes and 31 seconds. I'm gonna snapshot that and put that up there. That'll be a snapshot eventually when I get to promo in this show.
Trevor.
All right. Anyway,
My
they've
bad.
proven they are great leaders, great teachers, and hard workers, Sirianni and Hurts. Will that translate to wins this year or in the future? If any Eagles fan that tells you they know one way or the other is totally lying to you.
Right.
I believe they've shown they're putting in the effort and the work and all that.
Mhm.
I just don't know if a 39-year-old coach that's a rah-rah, leader translates to wins. Just there's no way to tell, Trevor. It's not high
And
school.
also-
He does it on our
That's
show
what I
too.
do.
I love
That's
it.
what I
It's his
do.
thing.
So so a question for that. When you guys were heavily, and still up to I guess a few weeks ago, rumored to be trading for Deshaun Watson,
Absolutely.
what does that tell Jalen Hurts that, hey, we just drafted you second round last year, but
Well, he was drafted in the
What is
second
that?
round, literally minutes after Carson Wentz signed a $150 million contract. So I'm newish to this game of sports talk and to podcasting and all. The first tweet that I ever made that ever got any traction that gained me followers and all was on draft night when Jalen Hurts got drafted. And I put out the tweet, can you imagine being Jalen Hurts? All you want to do is prove the Alabama fans and Oklahoma people, right or wrong. And you're going to a situation where no one wants you. And I felt bad for him because, again, like I said, I was a Hurts fan in college as well. And that got some traction. But he's had that chip on his shoulder since Alabama, Oklahoma, now in Philly. And he thrives off that. And you see it, at least in the practice setting, in the workout rooms, in the press conferences, he thrives with that chip. So I don't think it bothers him, that distraction. And I think because of the Deshaun Watson situation off the field, he's in a situation where he could prove himself. There is nobody else here this year. He's going to start 17 games.
Joe Flacco.
Oh, my
He's
God.
there.
Here we go.
He's got a Super Bowl.
Now we've all
He's got
had
a
a moment
Super
where we
Bowl.
needed
All
to
right,
be
He's
muted.
signed there to
guys,
compete.
it goes over. Someone just tried
He's
to say
signed
Joe
there to
Flacco.
compete for the starting job.
No.
Jalen Hurts got a raw deal. I really feel for the kid because you're right. He's put in a position that realistically not a lot of people are giving him, myself included, a chance to win. He has the intangibles. He's somebody who, honestly, if Washington would have drafted in the later rounds last year, I would have been more than happy to see him on this team because he honestly is a high character guy. So if you guys get rid of him, don't be surprised if Washington picks him up just to kick the tires.
Wouldn't be the first Eagles quarterback that Washington took.
Hopefully works out better than the last one.
And what kind of you can kind of if you want to take game film from last year, that New Orleans Saints game against you, he played lights out. I think brought him back from behind. And did y'all win that game?
No, we lost.
Did you win or
no?
but I'm not. I'm being serious. But
he honestly
he
did
made
play really well last year. People look at his numbers and thought he played decently. He was 1-3 last year, but he actually everybody was all over Carson Wentz's case, and I'm a big Carson Wentz fan. I always was, but I learned to move on in the NFL and stuff like that. But Carson Wentz turned the ball over. He was injury prone. That was his MO. Jalen Hurts turned the ball over per game. Actually, in his 4 starts last year, more than Carson Wentz did per game. So Jalen Hurts didn't play great, but the Eagles had 13 different offensive line starting lines last year. They had injuries everywhere. They had no wide receivers. So there's a lot of factors. They had a team that quit on their coach and Doug Peterson last year, a GM that was fighting with the coach last year. So there's a lot of factors working against Jalen Hurts. Nick Sirianni was hired in most people's minds to be a yes man, to say yes to Howie Roseman, the GM of the Eagles. And that was how Doug Peterson was hired, but Doug Peterson won a Super Bowl in the second year. So that kind of changed that whole relationship there. So, you can't really judge last year fully for Jalen Hurts. All we could do is see the effort he's putting in behind the scenes. And that tells me that will he be the franchise quarterback? I don't know. But we're going to get into, right here to wrap up the show, projections for the East and for each team and all. I don't see Jalen Hurts, ceiling anywhere. If he completely balls out and has an amazing season, Jalen Hurts can't be better than the top 10. He won't crack the top 10 in quarterbacks in the NFL this year. But on the flip side, I still think Jalen Hurts is a top 20 quarterback in this league. I think that's his ceiling and floor is in that range. He's not going to be god-awful like Dwayne Haskins or Sam Darnold or any of those guys.
7? Yeah.
He can't fall into that. He's going to be a top 10 quarterback, max, or he's going to be a top 20 quarterback at worst this year. And that's because of the intangibles I see off the field.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
All right, well, let's say. So, you want to go first?
All right.
Well, obviously, I'm assuming all three of you are picking Washington to win the division, but realistically, break down how you see this division playing out.
I am not picking Washington to win the division. Actually,
wow.
Of course, I would love Washington to win the division.
That's great because every Giants person I had on the show and every Cowboys fan picked their team to win the division. I've yet to pick the Eagles to win the division on any show yet.
Yeah. Well, I'm not a blind homer. That's kind of what is endearing, I think, for our particular podcast is we don't necessarily have three guys who are just going to sit here and talk great about the team all the way through. We're going to hold the teams accountable for what they're doing on and off the field. And in this particular case, I just don't think they have the necessary tools at the quarterback position to make a run at it. Now, I'm not saying that anybody else necessarily in the division does either, but I actually am a Daniel Jones guy. And I think the Giants are going to win. I think the Giants are going to win the division.
Wow.
And Washington, but I do believe Washington has the ability to.
Trevor, we're starting another podcast without Stout.
All right, word.
I think Washington has the ability to make a run at a wild card spot, but I don't think they're any better than a 9-8 team. Now, when we did our predictions, way too early predictions, I had them for like 12 wins or whatever, and then that was just kind of a goofy little bit.
I'm not asking.
Double down on it later.
I have a rule on my show. I don't let people make win-loss predictions until the week leading up to the first week of the season.
Okay.
It's never too you can never.
It's always
predict.
too early.
It's always too early. Just, so you don't have to say what you think they're going to finish at. But,
yeah.
Kind of like fantasy draft. Don't do fantasy drafts until after the last preseason game.
Absolutely agree. We're doing our DSM fantasy draft this upcoming weekend because it was the only date we could agree on, and it's still too early.
Yeah.
I haven't even hosted my fantasy football preview show yet.
Right. So I think it's going to be Giants, Washington, Dallas, Philly.
Okay. Trevor, where are you at?
Washington, Dallas, Giants, Philly. Because we swept Dallas last year, but we played Ben DiNucci and Andy Dalton in those games. Okay.
Ben DiNucci.
I'm not saying Dak
sounds like some Italian hoagie I got at his shop in Philly.
Right.
Yeah. So, come on. We didn't play Dak. I'm not saying Dak is almighty, but Dak is good. Dak is good. His numbers are good. I don't care what you say. I hate the Cowboys, but I'm not a Dak fan, but I respect this game. Mm-hmm. So usually when we play him, we always split with the Cowboys at least. We always split with our division. We never really, up until last year, sweep any division opponent. We always split with the Giants. Well, the Giants are 4-0 against us, whatever. But or Daniel Jones. We always split with them. We split with the Cowboys, and we used to split with Philly. But this year, I don't know if that'll happen. But our division is like that. Any given Sunday, it can happen. So yeah, I'm gonna go Washington, Dallas, Giants, Philly.
Nathan, you're up.
Any given Sunday, we mentioned how competitive the division is. I mean, Dallas was 1-7 last year and still had a chance to win the division, right?
Yes.
So it's going to be another tight one coming down. I do think Philly's going to end up on the basement this year. I will take Phil. Washington as the leader first time back to back for it, but not by much. I will take the Giants over Dallas though. I don't think Dak is 100% healthy, so I don't expect him to. And he really, honestly, even though he's playing well, the team still has a lot of questions on defense. So, they weren't winning with Dak last year. He's not 100% this year. I don't expect Dallas to win. I do think Daniel Jones and the Giants despite all the roughhousing and he's underneath a pile, will at least manage to have probably like 7 wins, and then Washington probably another barely.
Did he say you don't predict wins?
Oh yeah, sorry, no actual records, but I'm saying I don't think that there's going to be a team that's so far above 500 by the end of the season that there's a clear winner. I do think this is another year where the NFC East is looked at as the NFC least. Absolutely. And people think that there shouldn't be a team. There was a lot of people unhappy that Washington was hosting a football game in the playoffs with a losing record.
We don't make the rules.
Oh, I'm good with it. Please,
Roger Goodell,
season ticket holder, please let me get another game out of this.
If we win with 7 wins,
I'm going to tell you what an Eagles fan like me thinks. Okay, and I'll be honest. I think Washington wins the NFC East. Okay. And the only reasons why I say that are because, like you guys said, Dak, till I see Dak play in a game, in a real game, not practice moments or anything like that, anybody comes back from an injury like that, you cannot expect anything until you see them in real live game action. If Dak was healthy, I think it'd be a lot closer between Dallas and Washington for that first place. But I see Washington winning the division. Again, not putting out wins like you said, Nathan. I think 8 wins may even win this division. That's honestly where I see it. But I see Washington winning it, and I see Dallas and Philly fighting for that 2-3 spot. Again, it's only going to be 6 or 7 wins. If Dak's healthy, they might win 7 games, 8 games. Philly might win 6. If Dak's not healthy, maybe Philly pulls out a 7th win, whatever it is. There's no wild card team coming out of the NFC East. And Dallas is my number 1 Eagles rival. That's my most hated team. But I can't put the Giants above them because you guys like Daniel Jones. I think Daniel Jones is almost as bad as Dwayne Haskins. We'll reference Dwayne Haskins for a 5th time. He's almost as bad as Dwayne Haskins.
We should have stuck at 7 mentions. That was his number, right? So we should have stuck at 7.
Who cares?
The problem with Washington winning the division to me is their schedule. They have a first place schedule, so they play.
The Eagles have a last place schedule.
Exactly right. So they have to play Aaron Rodgers. They have to play the
Justin Herbert.
Justin Herbert and Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady and Russell Wilson,
Pat Mahomes
and Dak Prescott. They have to basically play the 5 best quarterbacks.
And Jalen Hurts.
And Jalen Hurts. Yeah, so that's where they're going to get tripped up. We're just
past an hour here, and we're throwing jokes at each other now.
So that's what's gonna level off their talent. I think is their schedule. It's a tough. Josh Allen, the 17th game got added. Who did we get? Oh, only a Super Bowl favorite.
We got the Jets,
an MVP candidate, and you guys got the Jets.
I know.
Any given Sunday.
Any given Sunday is correct. All right, I got a fun little thing I've done the last 2 weeks. I'm going to throw it to you guys real fast, and I didn't give you guys this prep beforehand. So whoever can think of this the quickest, your favorite Washington, Philadelphia memory ever between the 2 teams.
Oh, wow. Jeez.
Man. So why do you guys
I know my least favorite.
I can pick a lot of least favorites.
Yeah, I got a lot of
my Giants and Cowboys memories are from my younger childhood, but Washington, Philly has to be Michael Vick's first game in Philly. And that first play and Starship number 7 and all that.
Second play, third play.
I know, the 17th
game.
That has to be my favorite Philly Washington moment.
That's top of my list at least favorite. So you asked this question, I was just like, what's my most favorite? I don't know, but I know my least favorite.
Okay, there you go. Who's got a favorite Washington Philly memory?
Yeah,
you guys just haven't won enough against the Eagles over your careers.
Right. I think Ryan Kerrigan had 4 sacks in a game once. I think that's probably my favorite memory that I can think of right off the top of my head. Again,
just look at
the 91.
Look at last year, game 1. When they sacked Carson Wentz 8 times.
65, 7 times.
Yeah, just pummeled him. And Washington came out of the gates pretty fast. That's a pretty good memory.
That is, yeah.
I think mine is,
not for me, as a guy that used to use the term #Wentz is elite, that's not a good moment for me.
My good moment, probably recent memory, was benching Jalen Hurts week 16 and giving us the game to clinch the division. I mean, because I did not see that coming. I'm watching the game. I'm like, why are they? Why?
A guy who Washington fans are familiar with from the Gruden
Nate
days,
Sudfeld.
Yeah.
Like,
Let me just tell you that Week 17 game is the first Eagles game I've missed in 25, 30 years. I was in Florida. It was the day of my flight home. My flight got delayed like 7 hours. So I missed that. I was in the air for that entire game. I landed right as the game was ending.
You didn't miss
legit
anything.
confused.
I know I missed nothing.
I was legit confused because low key Jalen Hurts was doing.
He was
working.
He was
I was
working.
like, yo, we're about to lose.
That's another subject for another day. That's where the Howie Roseman, Doug Peterson disagreements, really came to blows. Anyway,
I was like, yo, we about to really lose.
All right. So we all agree the Eagles are winning the NFC East. That's 3 weeks in a row. 3 division rivals all agree the Eagles are winning the division. I love it. Gentlemen, Ref the District here live on DSM Media, trending for 4 quarters with Phil Stiefel. Thank you, gentlemen, so much for coming on the show. This has been a blast. This hour and 10 minutes has just flown by.
It's been awesome. We really appreciate you you doing that little Google search or that Twitter search and coming up with the best podcast in Washington, Ref the District. Every Thursday night, 7 p.m. Every day after the game, we call Day After Reckoning at 7 p.m. live on YouTube every time. And we appreciate you having us on. That was awesome.
Maybe someday I'll be big enough where you guys will Google search and find my name. That's the hope. Again, so we got Nathan down here at the bottom underneath me at the Nathan Perry. We got Stoner at Stone Dog DAWG 23. Trev's got his Twitter handle up there. Trev Stories WFT.
Oh, stories.
Stories.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's all the same.
You can catch us all at Ref the District as well on Twitter, and as we mentioned, our Ref the District.
Is that how they can find you on Twitter or YouTube as well?
Yep, Ref the District.
At Ref the District. Excellent. Make sure you check these guys out. It's been a pleasure, gentlemen. I greatly appreciate you guys coming on. Again, next week, got another great show planned. Same time, 9 p.m. Wednesdays, DSM Media. Make sure you hit that Twitter. Follow,
Twitter,
share,
follow
YouTube, subscribe, the thumbs up, all that stuff. You all know what the deal is. You've all been doing it, and I greatly appreciate your support. Great comments from everybody on the show. Much appreciated. I'm trying to fumble down here to the outro video. Everybody have a great night. I end the show with Go Birds. You guys can say whatever you guys say at the end of your shows.
Be a fan.
Be a fan.
Yep, that's right. Be a fan.
I like that. That actually works for everybody. Be a fan.